I've been playing Shadow of the Tomb Raider, and I'd like to nitpick a few things. I'm only in a couple of hours, and there might be some spoilers here. So at the very beginning of the game, it's established that Trinity, the big bad evil organization, doesn't know where the thing they're looking for is, which we don't yet know what we're looking for. For some reason, they don't tell us until a little bit later. But they think the thing they're looking for is in Brazil, and it's actually in Peru. And our heroes, they know it's in Peru. And so 2 days later, they go to Peru, and Trinity's already there. They apparently figured it out that they were supposed to go to Peru. How did they figure it out? I don't know. They just knew. Or maybe because there wouldn't be a game if they weren't there at Peru. And as usual, Laura Croft is doing her usual archaeology stuff of just destroying everything in her path. Just yanking everything out, just doing whatever she feels like. There's this one section where you're going across on these bells. Every time you hit one of the bells, you go bong, really loud. And I'm pretty sure there were supposed to be some Trinity people in there somewhere, because right before you do that section, like you can hear some bonging somewhere, or explosions or something in voices. Apparently nobody noticed all these bongs going off. But maybe it was just me not paying attention. And in this thing, in this room, there's a dagger she grabs. And apparently this dagger, which, well, I'll tell you what this dagger does. Apparently it ends the entire solar system. Just destroys the whole thing. And this dagger is just sitting there. Like, just think if there was an unrelated earthquake to this dagger that can destroy everything. It just falls out of its pedestal. Like, then everybody would just die just because some Mayan people were being mean or lazy or something. But anyway, she takes it out, and then you kill a bunch of people, and then suddenly a cutscene happens. And because there's a cutscene, that means Laura's completely useless, because somebody just taps her on the back of her head or her back or something, and she falls over. This is despite the fact that right before then you're getting shot, and she just brushes it off. And of course, the big bad guy, he says, "Oh, give me that dagger! I want that dagger!" And he takes it from her. And then I guess this is supposed to be like the big bad guy, but it's more like a teacher asking the student, "Hey, where's your homework at?" And she's sitting, I don't know where it is. It's just so weird. It's just so awkward. And that big bad guy was pretty damn lucky his helicopter came right then and there, because seconds later, big old tsunami comes through. And there's a section right after you go through all the tsunami stuff. You climb up this collapsing building and get on top of it. And it just so happens there's a rescue party there with a helicopter and Laura's friend Jonah. And I'm just thinking, we're on top of this collapsing building, right? And nobody seems to care. Like, did something happen between climbing on top of the collapsing building and us getting to where this helicopter is? But then they show the other side, like they're showing a sideways view, so you can't really tell where you are. But then they just show, yeah, you're on top of this collapsing building, and there's just a helicopter and a whole bunch of people sitting on top of it, and nobody cares. That was weird. What else is weird? There's an airplane crash, and everybody survives. This is despite the fact the pilot, he gets smashed in the face with some hail, and he gets knocked out. And Laura tries to fly the plane, but of course it doesn't work. The plane just falls apart, and she just pushes him over, so he's just laying there. And when we come back to it, of course they skip the crash. They come back to it, she's strapped into her chair. The pilot's nowhere to be found. It turns out he's survived. This is despite the fact that the front of the plane's missing. So for him to have survived, that means he would have been ejected from the plane, and he just survived that perfectly fine. We know he survived because he called us on the radio, but then he dies. So why didn't he just die in the crash? He served no purpose other than make you think you were going to find him. Like he didn't exist for you to go on. You were going to go on anyway because you need to get out of there. And a little bit later, you find your friend Jonah, and he's got this parasite in his arm, a big one. And I'm thinking, how did he get that in there? Did he not notice it swimming up his arm? Because he said he got it from water. He says, oh, there's a. How does that happen? It's not a leech that just like a cat grab it on. No, it goes into his arm, and apparently he didn't notice. That was weird. And then Laura just cuts it out. She could have gone in the way the parasite went in, but I guess not. There's this really weird part where you have to get Laura's gear, and it looks like somebody sets up the plane crash, like they were using the stuff from the plane crash as like a base camp. But that's not what happened. It just so happened that when the plane crashed, everything just happened to crash in such a way and end up in such a way that it looks like somebody set it up. Because there's this gear just hanging up by rope that's tied down. Like I don't know how this rope could have possibly been tied down to the ground in a plane crash, but it was. And then there's like this tent set up from the plane crash, set up over a fire. Who did that? Did this tent that was apparently inside the plane just set itself up? I guess so. And then there's a section where Laura fights some jaguars, and for some reason they like to swipe at her and then just run away. Until later, when one of them doesn't do that, and it's going nuts on her back, and all that happens, she gets a couple of scratches, which don't matter. Like the next day, they just heal up by the next day, which is, if you've ever been scratched by a cat, you know that's not going to happen. And as I understand it, this big bad evil organization, Trinity, nobody knows it exists, despite the fact that it has attack helicopters and APCs, which I'm sure they're going to be calling tanks, even though they're APCs. I just wonder how does nobody know what Trinity is, despite the fact that they have such a large presence everywhere they go. Do they use fake names? Apparently they kill everybody for some reason. I guess because that's the only way to show them that they're an evil organization. They just have to kill everybody for no reason. All the time. Let's see if is there anything else I can nitpick. I don't think so. I'll have to play some more of the game. No, there is a part. There's this tomb that would used to be some Mayan court, some trial by combat court. And apparently there's judges in there, the combatants themselves, and spectators go in there too, apparently. And there's these traps set up in the walls. They're not like set up after the fact, they're inside the walls. And so I'm thinking, were these traps all set up while people were going in there? Like, were people having to remember to pick their feet up and not trip over the rope that would spear everybody in front of them? Or when they abandoned the place, did they say, hey, we better put all these spike traps in here when we abandon the place for some reason? Like, what? Like, if you're going to abandon it, are you really going to put spike traps everywhere? No, you're not. So the only thing that makes sense is that these spike traps were there while they were using it. And just everybody just had to make sure they didn't accidentally set off the spike traps and kill themselves. That is just so bizarre. It just makes no sense at all. Now, I would like to say that Laura is very, very lucky that everything is decayed in such a way that she can easily get around all these decayed tombs. Like, I'd say the rope is best off because it's not even, none of the rope's even dirty, despite the fact that it's like hundreds and hundreds of years old, or maybe 1,000 years old. I have no idea. The rope's not dirty, so it's pretty lucky. I mean, in real life, all that stuff would have just rotted away, and there'd just be nothing there for her to climb around on. So I guess she's just super, 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 super lucky.